talk about what story is not.
Right, well, there are many things that story is not, and it also relates back to this idea that story is better than the real. So one of the things that story is not is that it is not a literal day in the life. It is not just a plod through the day, and I get my coffee and I wake up in the morning and I go to work. There's something that there is a core action or a core problem that is bigger or better than the real, that ties it in, that can tie it into an everyday situation, but it's not just those little everyday moments. And I just wanted to throw in there, Boyhood was my favorite movie of the year, and I think that it breaks all of these rules. But the reason why it works is that it's not just a day in the life or recounting, but it's this device of having happened over 12 years that makes it so fascinating. And so there are exceptions to this rule, but on the whole, these are the things that people should avoid when they're approaching their stories.
Another one is random musings. This is it seems to me where it's very pretentious, where you have some characters sitting in a diner and somebody goes, "Ketchup, what's that about?" Right? And then the movie just kind of moves through people saying that. And it's funny to point out that people think they're profound when they're not once in a while. But if your whole movie is just kind of like, "Ketchup, what's that about?" The audience, after about 20 minutes, if that long, will go, do I need to be here for this? What is this? And it feels very pretentious, kind of just fishing around. Well, these are just some people who really, they had one germ of an idea, but they really didn't think this through. It doesn't have any progression.
Mm-hmm. Stories also, it's not a straight line. It needs to go up and down and around, and there needs to be highs and lows. And in the same way that it's not a day in the life, it's not just a straightforward telling of events.
Another one is story is not a fascinating place or even a really cool event. So we get pitches like this all the time. People are like, I want to write a story about, or I have a movie about a nuclear submarine getting stuck on the bottom of the ocean. And we go, and what's the story? What's the story? And they're like, a nuclear submarine's on the bottom of the ocean. It's like, that's not a story. A story is when you start telling me and what the character's stakes are, with that, So another one is, oh, wow, I went to this amazing village in China. And, it's the village where they make, the dragons for the festivals. It's amazing. And my movie is like that village. It's like, that's not a story. Mm-hmm. That's an arena. So we're constantly having to help writers distinguish a really cool arena, or an interesting, kind of event from being a story. Those things aren't stories.
Yeah, or Chicago in the 20s. Yeah. Again, great arena, but you have nothing until you have your characters doing something that's going to move your story forward.
How soon do you introduce conflict? I'm seeing sometimes conflict is within the first minute sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes longer. What do you think is appropriate?
One exercise that we do with our clients is we have them make a list of every possible conflict that could ever happen to their character, and then try to come up with 20 things. And then we say, okay, now come up with 10 more, and then come up with 10 more. And now put it all in your script. See how much conflict you can add to your script. And that's a really common beginner mistake, is that there's just simply not enough conflict happening in the story. And high stakes, lots of conflict, that's what drives a story. So something should happen on page one.
Yeah. Or the conflict is only of one nature. To me, that's the mistake of so many Hollywood studio films today, that the conflict is all external conflict, or
the world is ending.
The world is ending, yeah. So we need the superheroes to come in and stop the bad guy. But there's all kinds of different levels of conflict, between human beings. There's a psychological conflict between yourself, between you and the gods or the fates, and so the idea of the nature of the conflict in your script. If you only have external conflict coming at your character, one kind of like literally like everybody's throwing stones at them, then this is a boring movie. You need to have all different kinds of conflict.
It needs to be physical, emotional, spiritual, every type of
So story is not something without conflict. You know, story is about conflict. And the essential conflict in a story, by the way, is the conflict between what a character wants and what they need. So, you know, the character says, I want to be an astronaut. They need to be somebody who can be dependent, interdependent with other people. So the movie ends, the story ends when those two things meet, when their want becomes their real need. So their want begins to transform. And it's like, it's not about being an astronaut that I should want. It's this thing. As soon as a character wants what they really should want, the story's over. But that kind of trying to get those two things to converge, what they want and what they need, that's the fundamental conflict of any movie.
And when a main character gets what they need, that's typically a happy ending. When the main character gets what they want, that's typically a tragedy.
Mm.